Thank you very much for joining us here on the Voice of Job Seekers. The holiday edition is this week is a major holiday, and I'm glad that you're able to join us. I'm sure some of you are beginning to take off for the holidays, and that's a good thing, right? You're driving, and maybe you're driving through 12, 15 states. Who knows what you're going to come across as far as weather is concerned. Here in the Midwest is crazy. It's dark and it's dreary. It's raining. It's cold. It's awful. But I'm glad you're able to sit down with us to have a chat and join some forum discussion on job search. And hopefully this will help you to be a better job seeker, a smarter job seeker. Of course, I want to welcome you to the Voice of Job Seekers once again. And first off, I was going to introduce Jack, allow Keirsten to the Uber talent acquisition leader. How you doing, ma'am?
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yes, thanks for being on with us. And of course, Jack Kelly. Jack, how's it going, Jack?
To be very transparent, when you talked about the holidays and travel, as a dad, as a parent, my daughter is going with her boyfriend to their parents for the holidays, and they're up all the way in Massachusetts, and we're down here all the way in New Jersey. So I have to now worry about driving safely and making sure they go there, everything is okay. I think she left a couple of hours ago, so I have like 3 more hours to worry and have to hope everything is okay.
Is
But
it raining there?
it should be. Yeah, it hasn't started yet, but I'm looking out the window. It looks like it's going to rain here, and they're
Yeah.
calling for a lot of rain. But it's funny. Let's be honest. This is like a parent thing. You know what I mean? This is part of life, right? Where you got to
It
factor in
is,
these things.
but you
Yeah.
you get used to it.
Yeah.
My my youngest son doesn't travel as much as my
Mhm.
oldest does. My oldest one is the globetrotter of them all, and I've stopped worrying about it. It's just whatever it is going to be. But I too understand that girls are a little bit more different. They're a little bit more precious to dad, and so this tends to be a little bit more there's heartstrings
You
attached
know,
to the
it's
dog.
interesting though, Mark. Yeah, yes, but she's like gung ho on stuff, which is actually gets me more nervous. She's like, "Oh, I was driving. It was so great. I'm driving 70, 80 miles an hour and listen to music." I'm like, "What? Like you just started driving. Don't be driving 70 miles an hour. Stop that. Just go 60, go 55." Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it is.
What's starting,
Welcome
Kirsten? I see you
to
making a face, but
adulthood.
when you just start, they're starting. It's not like she's been driving for
Oh,
years, really. This is
gotcha.
like,
I understand that
yeah,
part.
yeah,
Just starting out, but as
yeah.
someone who got my driver's license in New Jersey, you can't get your driver's until you're 17.
Mhm.
So that was my senior year of high school. And then I went to college a few months later, and then I didn't drive for the beginning of my freshman year. I didn't drive because I didn't have a car at school. And then coming back and then going back and forth to Richmond
Yeah.
sophomore year, junior year. So I
Mhm.
understand that. But yeah, you telling them to drive 55 miles an hour on a Thanksgiving weekend is not going to get you there.
Yeah, it's a little bit different. The holiday season, everybody's trying to get to where they're going. So I understand. I get it.
Just be
So,
real, right? I'm being
yeah,
you asked
yeah,
how it is, so, like, I
yeah.
figured, hey, what
I
I have
get it.
no qualms about being honest and saying, "Hey, this is what's on my mind," because I think most families and people go through this stuff, and in a way, it's related to the job search too, because whatever it is, there's always things in the background that are on your mind, right? That
Mhm.
always take over. Whatever you're doing, you're maybe looking for a job, looking to advance, but there's always in the back of your mind 10 different things going on. What do I got? What I got to do? This is happening. I'm worried about such and such.
Yeah, it's important to be present when you're driving. At least if you can't, you won't be able to control anything else but the car at the moment you're driving. She'll get used to it and she'll be fine.
She
You
loves it.
know,
Yeah,
good,
it's the parent.
good thoughts and positive thoughts
Yeah.
being sent your way. Okay, so let's get it on with some discussion here. First of all, let's do talk about the job search in some generalities. And I know some people are caught between the holidays and wanting to continue the job search. What are some quick wins that you guys can give people to get them started or for them to continue on with the job search if they're in that situation?
Well,
I'll start with you, Kirsten. Go ahead.
well, and foremost, don't put your job search on pause right now. So many other people are going to put their job search on pause, which gives you kind of an advantage, so to speak, because while the new positions that are being posted may not be as abundant right now, the
Hmm.
people that are applying to them will go down significantly because a lot of people think there's no hiring going on in the holiday season, so they put their search on pause. Also, their seasonal work, and just because it's not in your desired role, it's not your desired role, doesn't mean that you can't use it to keep your transferable skills sharp, keep your transferable, maybe even strengthen one that you had. When I was in between consulting jobs back in, I think 2017 or 18, I think it was 2018, I took a job part time, just helping my friend at church,
Hmm.
pastor. And I was doing the Sunday bulletin. I was keeping up with some of the data and pulling their membership records together, like doing all the stuff I know how to do, but it helped me in creating content for Trap Recruiter and for other things because I got comfortable and I got a lot of more practice in Canva making the announcement and making these graphics and things like that. Always do that. And then volunteering. I know so many people, and I'll say this every time. I know people who have gotten jobs from non-paid work, and I don't advise this, but you have some time. I know people that have been recruiters that have gotten laid off and then they've gone to their local community college or they've gone to a community organization or they've gone even to just volunteer their time to do something and that's turned into a position. Just utilize all of your resources, utilize your network. And this is not the time to necessarily put a full stop and a full pause on your job search.
I agree with those,
Yeah,
Jack.
I agree with her. It's as Kirsten was saying, this time of year, a lot of people just tap out of the market, which is not a good thing to do because if you're in it, you're going to stand out because there's going to be less competition.
Mhm.
And you're getting out there, you're
Right.
sending out resumes, maybe getting some interviews, some informational interviews. And you're staying sharp. You're keeping in. I'm a big believer is that an object in motion stays in motion, that you got to keep going and keep with the momentum. So that if all of a sudden you do a dead stop, and then a week goes by, 2 weeks, and then before you know it, "Hey, I'm gonna wait till after the holidays. Oh, I'm gonna wait till after the New Year." And by then, everybody else is flooding right back into the market all over again, and the competition
Right.
is heated. Um, I will offer this one thing. I'm slightly getting optimistic. I don't wanna be saying, "Hey, everything is, better," but it seems like the Fed is not gonna keep raising hikes. They may even cut the interest rates. It seems that
Mhm.
the stock market, which is not the be all and end all, but is a forward-looking mechanism, how people think the economy is gonna be, and it's been going up higher and higher for a while. So it looks like the investment world is feeling confident that things are gonna be looking better in the near term.
Mhm.
So it went from a lot of doom and gloom to at least now it's seeming a little better. We still have to worry about all the debt the US has, but fortunately, I'm hoping that coming into the new year, that maybe the jobs are going to loosen up. Maybe there's going to be more confidence out there, that companies could feel more confident to start actually hiring and doing something instead of just dragging their feet and cutting
Right.
costs. So I'm trying to be very optimistic here.
No, I think it's fair. I think there's reason for optimism for the fact that, you know, we're not in a recession yet, or that this promise of a recession that keeps looming over and keeps threatening indirect ways could happen. And it hasn't happened because this was the year that it was doom and gloom and that didn't happen. So that's very important to think about and know that people go along. But volunteering is definitely one that I had on my mind for most as well. I think in terms of volunteering as soon as you possibly can, and hopefully people who had long gaps are already doing that, or people who just became unemployed right away, just to be able to keep your mind sharp, to keep your possibilities open as far as meeting people, and then even keeping your skills sharp if you happen to use those skills that might be newer to your life and to your profession and that you might be able to use in a very productive way. So I think those things are very important. I would say even continue to look at different areas where you might be needed. Just don't look at one industry and just don't look at all the industries at one, but look to see where you fit in each industry and consider those as possibilities because you'll have more options. If you have a certain skill set and it might fit into hotel as well as tech, as well as publishing, as well as something else. So take all those considerations, but just be more skill centered as opposed to just trying to find a job. So that way you can not only leverage that in that particular industry, but it might set you on a new career path that might be more fruitful than the last. So I would say continue to now that we do want to move on some some let's go to topic number two. Christmas, as we talk about the holidays. September definitely we didn't have the September surge. So I don't see a lot of job postings that are unique to Christmas other than the usual retail stuff that we usually see in UPS and FedEx. They are always hiring. But are you guys seeing that maybe Christmas is hitting a little bit different than it had in the past? We'll start with you, Jack.
Well, that's a good question because about this time of year, you start seeing all the Christmas decorations and Amazon's going to hire 5 billion people and UPS a trillion
Right.
people and all that. I really haven't seen those headlines as much, but I imagine that's going to be happening. Uh, and that's going to take place. I think also, you know what it is? And this is going to sound crazy, right? Because I've no data to back this up. But
Mhm.
I think as humans, we don't want to keep going in the same direction. Meaning that if for the last year and a half, particularly for like white collar professionals, it's been kind of doomy and gloomy, right? And I think after a while, we're like, you know what? Enough with that. We got to turn it around. It got to be better. And it's almost like this collective thought process. You know what? Things are going to get better. Think about it. So far in the Middle East, right, with Hamas and Israel, it looked like it was going to be like dragging everyone into World War III.
Right.
Happened, right? And now they're trying to negotiate stuff
Not
out.
yet, anyway.
I'm taking the optimistic side. So
Right.
I'll focus on that.
Go for it.
I'm just trying to be
Absolutely.
positive. And then I look at Ukraine, like, we don't hear about anything anymore, so it doesn't look like we're gonna be drawn into World War III over there. So I'm hoping
Mhm.
that for this holiday season, it starts that trend, like, "Hey, you know what? We've waited for, like, almost 2 years of just being in a weird spot, no growth, cost cutting, slow hiring, lots continual layoffs, and perhaps by getting the holidays, all of a sudden, that's the benchmark that changes it. That's you start getting in a better mood because it's the holidays, you're happier, family and friends, you get a good vibe, and a lot of these things are psychological. So then once,
Mhm.
people start getting in a better mood, they're willing to spend more, they're willing to travel more, that stimulates the economy is doing better, so then people are like, "Oh, wait, this is great," so companies feel confident to hire, and you get this positive
Mhm.
virtuous circle. So that's what I'm shooting for. I'm hoping that's how it's gonna play out.
Yeah, yeah, I think that all those things are in the back of people's mind. Of course, you read in LinkedIn, you're seeing a lot of your network commenting one way or another about it. I try to stay with it because stay away from it because I'm not ready yet to dive into that topic. But I will say that I don't know, maybe it's just me not watching as much TV or not watching the news as much or not reading what I
Mhm.
usually read as much recently. It does seem like it's hitting a little bit different because it seems as though we used to hear the calls for jobs and things for what to do. And there used to be a loud call was turned now to like maybe a whisper that there are some opportunities just maybe not in the usual sectors that they're usually available in. Kirsten, have you anything particular?
Yeah, I'm not seeing as many seasonal opportunities. We have to be, while I'm not trying to be doom and gloom, I'm going to take the realist approach, as and not the
Okay.
fully optimistic
But which is good though, because this
Jack
way, like,
approach.
it's good. You
But
get
I mean,
different.
we have to be honest. Seasonal jobs, a lot of times, were like Mark said, like in retail, even in restaurants, filling in for people who were going to take extended breaks during the
Mhm.
holidays, and you might have third party companies, bring it temp agencies or whatever we want to call them, providing those filling in those gaps for folks who were, like I said, going to be taking off, going to be doing whatever, or there's maybe a little bit more work that needs to be done, getting files straight. And if we're talking about white collar positions, getting files together, closing out some accounting issues or whatever the case may be. But I'm not seeing
Mhm.
as many of those on the retail side. Obviously, look at if you go in any mall, like there's no stores open right now. Like people aren't shopping the way that they used to. So they're not.
Right.
Hours are changing. Big Black Friday used to be a huge deal to the point that stores were opening even on Thanksgiving Day. Now your big box stores are saying, no, we're not going to do it. They barely have cashiers to work, or
Right.
they're doing other things, because I tell people all the time, like, I'll stand in the line because I don't work there. And that's no disrespect. And that's no gripe against people who work as a cashier. But if you're getting paid to do that job, I'm going to stand in line and wait for you and have my things checked out by you. I'm not going to a self checkout. I didn't come there to do that myself. I could have bought my stuff online. So,
Self checkout
no,
king.
I'm not doing it. I don't work there. I don't work there.
I'm with you,
Yeah.
Kirsten. I hate the self-checkout. Pay me to
I
do it,
Because
right?
I
let's be
If I'm gonna
honest,
do it, pay me.
you guys know what
because so
yeah,
many
and you
people
guys know what I buy, and I have to wait
yeah.
for someone to come and check my ID. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, okay. I guess if you have to have your ID checked,
I
then
have to have my ID
I
checked.
get it. I
So,
get it.
yeah, I'm going to the real line. But I was saying, like, I do think it's going to be a little bit different. And I've even seen like Amazon closing down some warehouses. So they're not even hiring
Yes.
as many people as they used to. Now, what does that mean for 2024? And even you saying bringing opportunities to connect. This time pre-pandemic and even last year, there will be an abundance of holiday party invitations. You already got your schedule, you already got your calendar of where you're going, where there's not a lot of companies that are
Mhm.
doing these huge, enormous holiday blowouts anymore.
Y
Well, I think bonuses are going to be different. And some of that is because a lot of these organizations have experienced layoffs, and it just doesn't look good to spend
right.
all this money on certain things. And people still haven't fully come back together in an office setting. You still have people who don't want to travel um, to the office for whatever reason. They're co-located and all of these things. And I think the connections going forward are going to be a mix between the companies that are insisting on return to office, the companies that are trying to fill their office buildings back up and then really get right sized, because even the roles that are open, their salaries are not consistent with the growth that we've seen before. And
Mm,
people are like, why would I take a job paying X amount and I have to be in the office, adding costs for travel, adding costs to feed myself, taking away time from my family, taking away time from me doing other things. And people are negotiating and negotiating those things a little bit differently. So I think it's going to be a minute before we're back to this the holidays being like a season of abundance and a
mhm.
season of a lot of choices. I still think it's going to be some time.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you. And I thought about as you were talking, I thought about hospitality. They're still hiring. Retail, a lot of them are still hiring. There's a lot of those that are still looking for people. They're still short. You're still waiting a little bit longer at the restaurants and all. It just is. I do think that the areas that are growing that I have seen recently, manufacturing is growing, but just growing a little bit differently in ways that it hasn't in the past. I've seen the sustainability sector grow because there's more green jobs depending upon where you live. If you live in the western part of the states, not Chicago, where there's very little sun during the winter, but where there's a lot of sun, I think those a lot of jobs in those what they call green job areas. But I think a lot of it is just getting for people to get acclimated and knowing where the jobs are and look a little bit harder, not just look at if there's a job, but where there's a job and where you could fit in, like I mentioned last time. But to mention that people aren't going to have parties when half the staff are only coming into the office. I think of when I went to visit LinkedIn for an event, and they had only less than 50% of their workers in the office. Why throw a party for 2,000 people when only 800 people are going to come to the office, right? Then, of course, people had layoffs. And of course, the layoffs didn't bring a whole lot to celebrate. And who feels like celebrating when their favorite coworkers are gone, or when the company said we're going to cut back and then you're going to have a Christmas party? That could look a little weird too. So I definitely feel like it's going to look a little bit different. It may be a couple of years before it actually looks like a real Christmas rush again. Maybe it just is going to be more, we'll know more December 26th. When Christmas is over, and that second day, which is December 26th, is the biggest shopping holiday outside of the day after Thanksgiving, where it's return day. And it's just we'll know more. And those stats will come out, how things will definitely, or maybe it will even out, who knows. But this was good for us to talk about, and I think people need to go in looking both ways before they cross into job search traffic. Let's talk about number 3. And Jack,